Hey everyone, we're back. I'm Phil Gallagher of Thraben University fame, joined by E.W. Landon the Great. How you doing, Eric?
Oh, I'm doing all right, considering I just lost.
Yeah, no one expects the good old dinosaur, Stompy.
I did not.
So I've gotten a couple of messages today being like, Phil, WTF, what is going on with this deck list? And I want to give credit to the creator. This was from a Legacy 5.0 deck list dump by Cherry X Man. I pulled that deck list out of there and made like 2 changes, and it looked like so much fun. I was going to register a reasonable deck, and then I saw that, and I couldn't help myself.
Yeah, it definitely seemed pretty sweet. It's very, very threat dense for a stompy deck, which seems pretty sweet.
Yeah, it had more card advantage than I was expecting. The tireless trackers did a lot of work, or had the potential to do a lot of work, and I really liked that.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of that card.
But this match, it's not about us. But before we jump into this next match, we do have another raffle. We are going to be giving away another copy of the Humans of Magic book. So we're going to play a brief audio clip where our creator goes and tells you a little bit about the book.
Hi, my name is James Su. I'm the co-founder of Cardboard.Live and the creator of the Humans of Magic project. I'm really excited today to be giving away copies of my book during the Legacy Premier League. I've been a huge fan of Legacy over the years and really a huge fan of Julian's. Julian was very instrumental in me wanting to start the podcast in the first place. So giving away 2 copies of the book. The book contains several people who are actually participating in the LPL right now. So whoever wins the book, I hope you enjoy it. And if you want to learn more about the book and what I do, feel free to visit humansofmagic.com. That's humansofmagic.com. Thanks.
So I haven't listened to very much of this podcast, but I have read James's other book, which I believe is called Magic the Addiction or something approximating that, and I enjoyed it a lot. Highly recommend picking up this or the other book if you're looking for a casual read. Have you gotten a chance to listen to any of the podcast at all?
I have not, but I did get. I got to meet James in China for a tournament a couple years ago, and he told me a little bit about it. I just haven't had a chance to actually pick up the book, but I think I will pick this one up. This looks pretty sweet. There's a lot of interesting magic characters in there, and
Yeah,
people.
a lot of great names in there.
Yeah.
And Bob too. So
yeah.
All right, 15 seconds left for your raffle here. Type humans if you want to get in on it. I'm really looking forward to watching our replay. I really want to see what all was in your hand at those various points of the game. I think I'm gonna have fun puzzling through it.
Yeah, I'm also gonna give that a watch. Definitely not real happy with the way I played game 1, but
oh, I made a serious misplay game 2 that I'm kicking myself for, but it's all right.
Yeah.
All right, so our winner is the, oh, this is so far away, the Samoetician. Thank you very much for entering. Make sure you get Julian your information, including your phone number, because this one is going to be shipped to you via Amazon directly. And that'll be at It's Julian on Twitch. Go ahead and message him directly. All right, so why don't we go ahead and take a look at those poll results. We all know they're very accurate and clear predictors of the winners of matches, as we've seen with my matches for the last 2 weeks. It looks like Cyrus is the clear crowd favorite here. We'll see whether or not people agree with that once we get going into the matches.
Yeah, these Twitch polls kind of looking like a little bit like a popularity contest. I think Cyrus said something about he was a little surprised by the results here of this poll because of the deck lists, but I guess we'll see how it goes.
If I was betting on the player, I'd have a hard time betting against Cyrus. But if we look at the matchup, I don't know that I agree. Let's take a look at our first deck list. Let's take a look at Cyrus's deck list first.
All right.
Bloop, bloop. There we go. It is Elves. personally one of my most feared and hated decks. And one of the reasons Cyrus actually submitted this is because he suspected that Bonde might just go and submit Death and Taxes again. So if you're not familiar with the overall game plan of the deck, you are a hybrid creature combo / mid-range deck. So normally you're looking to win via Glimpse of Nature chains and just draw a huge number of cards while dumping a ton of elves into play. And eventually either hard casting or using a natural order to put a Crater Hoof Behemoth into play as your finisher. So do you have any thoughts on this deck list, Eric?
It looks like pretty straightforward elves. I know a lot of people have been messing around with the lists recently, adding some different angles such as Hex Drinker and Elvish Reclaimer. But this one's pretty much original elves, pretty stock you've seen for years in the format. Just sticking to their main game plan.
We have Cyrus making some very good technical choices here. If you look at the deck list, we have a clean split between Fyndhorn Elves, Llanowar Elves, and Elvish Mystic. This is hedging very specifically against Phyrexian Revoker, shutting that off. Heads up play before the game even begins. This sideboard may look like it's 2 to 3 years old. Other than the collector oof, most of what you see here is really a throwback to an older version of Elves. That doesn't mean it's bad, but it definitely looks retro.
Yeah, it does. A lot of 4 ofs. Well, Cabal Therapy and Abrupt Decay. And one card that I'm not used to seeing that often in the Elves sideboard, and it is a real throwback, is the Progenitus, and I bet Cyrus is quite happy that he has that in his sideboard today.
Oh, absolutely. There's a lot of decks that just can't beat a Progenitus if you just floop it into play on, turn 3 or something like that. A death like Death and Taxes, for example, has like a couple of Council Judgments as an out to it. Otherwise, the game is over. And very few decks can just answer that bugger unless the board is completely empty and you can snatch it with an Edict.
Yeah, which will be, it's pretty hard to make the board completely empty. But the reason I said that he's probably happy he has it in the sideboard is for this particular matchup, Michael Bonde will likely be killing lots of elves.
Yeah, so before we talk about the matchup, let's just go ahead and look at Bonde's deck list. This is Grixis Control, and you're more of a blue mage than me, so I'll let you start talking here.
So Grixis Control, I heard that Michael Bonde actually registered this deck because he would put Cyrus on a creature deck based on what you were talking about, where he thought he might be playing Death and Taxes. So I think he actually put Cyrus on either Elves or Death and Taxes himself.
Yeah, little known fact, Cyrus does play Death and Taxes, and he played quite a bit of it before cards like Dreadheart Arcanist and Wrenn and 6 kind of changed the format around and made it more hostile towards D&T. Like, he's talked to me plenty about sideboarding and lines of play and stuff. So Cyrus has more in his toolkit than just Ant.
Yeah, absolutely. And this deck hedges pretty well against Ant as well, because as you can see, he's got 3 Hymn to Turoks, which are really good against Ant, as well as 2 Thoughtseizes to get to that part, or to the turn 2, to go along with obviously the Force of Wills and some additional counter magic with Drown in the Lock. So he was hedged.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just saying he was hedged pretty well against Ant, and the deck is pretty good against creature decks because there's so much removal.
I really like the one of Mystic Sanctuary as a way to go and rebuy some of these powerful spells as well. Endgame, the ability to Mystic Sanctuary a Culligan's Command to the top to get back your Snapcaster or Baleful Strix and just do the value dance. That seems amazing to me.
Yeah, Mystic Sanctuary, I mean, he's only playing 3 colors, so it makes it a little bit easier to have the turn 3 Sanctuary off of a fetch land than if he were to be playing 4 colors. So it's pretty consistent to be able to do that, and to just, yes, putting, one of your earlier removal spells right back on top so that you're guaranteed another removal spell, or a Force of Will if you're dead to something like Natural Order.
So who are you going to be betting on in this matchup? How do you think this is going to play out?
Well, I think It could go either way. I mean, it should be interesting games, but I think that Michael Bonde is probably at least, I would say at least 60% to win based on the matchup.
I would agree with that. I think game one is probably going to be a relatively fair fight. But if you look at Bonde's sideboard with 3 Grafdigger's Cage, 2 Plague Engineers, I feel like those are going to be really hard-hitting sideboard cards. So I think game one will probably be real close, but I think the sideboard games are going to be much more swingy based on how many of his sideboard cards Bonde draws.
He's also got 3 Submerges, which are pretty good against Elves.
Free removal spells are Dece, maybe Dece plus. Let's go down to the match where Michael Bonde will be on the play.
All right. So Michael Bonde's on the play.
Can we get the notepad that they can't see moved out of the way of the hand? Thank you.
So Bonde kept his hand with 1 land, but he's got a Force of Will. He's got 2 Astrolabes, so it's a reasonable hand. It doesn't have all that removal that he kind of needs, because in this matchup you kind of expect him to just want to kill everything.
Bonde's hand is a little slow, but Brainstorm can turn things around real quick. Cyrus's hand has a lot of potential. The Heritage Druid plus another elf or 2 is going to mean that he can dump his hand. The big question will be, how aggressively is he going to play this hand?
I would imagine he's going to dump his hand out pretty quickly, as opposed to trying to sandbag creatures for Glimpse of Nature, since if you just play a bunch of 1/1s and start attacking, it's a pretty good way to beat counter magic.
Well, my thought was, you have 2 green suns. Do you want to use those to assemble Wirewood Elvish Visionary combo, or do you want to use them as acceleration? That was kind of my thought with the initial opening hand.
Yeah, I think with the second one in hand, it's not too bad to lead on the first one, but there's a good chance that the second one won't resolve. So, now that Michael Bonde has Baleful Strix, the idea of attacking with a bunch of dorks for however many turns is going to be a little bit more difficult. But Wirewood Symbiote will help protect against the Strix if he blocks an elf that he wants to save.
So elves can go wide of a couple of blockers very, very easily. Cyrus's Green Sun is probably going to end up getting an Elvish Visionary to start that combo off. So I expect our good friend Lampalot here is going to end up forcing a Green Sun in the next turn cycle.
Yeah, he may not, depending on, what he draws off of this Baleful Strix, because if he forces with this Preordain and he's just got Arkham's Astrolabes, it's going to be in a bit of a, he's relying pretty heavily on those 4 cards or 3 cards you'll see off the 2 Astrolabes in his draw step.
Yeah. The brainstorm he had there was kind of medium. Seeing a bunch of lands and Astrolabes isn't really where you want to be in this matchup. You want to interact with elves early and often.
Okay, it looks like he's going for Astrolabe first and then Ponder, which makes some sense because then he can force pitching the Baleful Strix, which isn't all that impactful.
Yeah, so just in case you don't know, Arkham's Astrolabe does produce snow mana, so you can use the Volcanic Island to cast the second one once you have the first one in play already.
Yeah, that's an interesting interaction considering it doesn't say it on the card, but I think I wouldn't have known that if it weren't for Magic Online.
Yeah, I did not know that until someone yelled at me in one of my YouTube videos for not doing that.
Snow permanent makes snow mana, I guess.
So the Pendelhaven is an okay draw. It's maybe not what he wants, but if this ends up being a war of attrition, the Pendelhaven can do things like protect something from a Culligan's Command or a Renin 6 activation, so it's certainly not a dead draw.
No, yeah, it's punch a little bit of extra damage through and protect from K Command, like you mentioned. Not very good against Lightning Bolt or Fatal Push, but luckily for Cyrus, Michael Bonde's only removal spell right now is a K command.
So one thing you need to be aware of when you're playing Elves is that a lot of times you can cast a 1-mana spell essentially for free if you have a Gaia's Cradle, because you're using 1 mana, and then the Gaia's Cradle will just give you 1 mana back immediately. So when you're playing with these cards like Tolarian Academy, Serra Sanctum, Gaia's Cradle that produce multiple mana, sometimes you can do a strange little efficiency dance.
So Cyrus got his Green Sun Zenith Force like you had expected to happen, and now the K command being the only removal spell, I wouldn't be shocked, depending on this ponder, if Michael Bonde goes after the Dryad Arbor, just because it's the only one he can't protect with Wirewood Symbiote, and then just making Cyrus discard a card.
I would actually go for the Wirewood Symbiote, because the scariest situation is one where we get the Elvish Mystic recursion, Elvish Visionary recursion engine going. So yeah. I would pick off the Symbiote.
Yeah, I would probably not put Cyrus on a Visionary here, but you're right that even if he draws one off the top, that could really turn things around for Cyrus. Okay, so he went for that. He probably will try and kill the Dryad Arbor next turn.
Yeah, so now we're just going to see some Pendelhaven beats.
Or maybe he'll ignore the Dryad Arbor and go after the one that makes 3 mana. But I think at this point, since there's no play from Cyrus, that yikes, it's gonna be really hard from here. Now Bonde's basically got access to 1, 2, 3, 3K command, 4K commands.
So Cyrus now essentially needs to hoof, either via natural order or hard casting it. He's going to need to do that probably pretty quickly, or the opportunity is going to close.
Yeah, I think it has to be natural order. I don't think there's any way he's going to be able to Green Sun or hard cast one this game.
It's going to be really hard to keep permanents around. Yeah. So Snapcaster K command is probably taking the Heritage Druid off the table while also getting this Misty Rainforest out of hand.
Oh, he didn't have the 3rd island for his Sanctuary, so he doesn't have quite as many K commands as I had originally mentioned.
But and that's a good point.
Okay, yeah.
So that is not representing a Dryad Arbor. I believe there were 2 Dryad Arbors in this deck list.
Yeah,
yes,
I think
two Dryad Arbors.
I think we'll see Cyrus continue to sandbag these lands, just because he knows he's kind of under the K command lock here, where he's going to lose his draw step if he plays out all of his cards. That's probably what we'll see here is Snapcaster to block as well as K command. It's
sort of interesting in terms of like timing here, considering that Cyrus has this 1 card in hand. What are you going to do? But I think you wait and do the Snapcaster Mage as potentially an ambush Viper in combat, although that's a little bit less good because of the Pendelhaven. I just like the scenarios where you can like K command and then also get back your Snapcaster in the same cycle, but that's maybe not happening.
Yeah. Well, now he probably can at least kill the one he's targeting.
Yeah, and then take out the remaining card in hand.
Yeah, make Cyrus discard his last card. And then he gets to untap with a Snapcaster in play and play a Jace with no cards in Cyrus's hand. So Cyrus will probably need to top deck natural order and dodge a force from Michael Bonde.
Well, we're also running into the world where Cyrus is actually low on mana.
Yeah, he has enough.
He has 4 currently,
yeah.
But 1 removal spell all of a sudden.
Yeah, I was thinking if Michael Bonde played the Jace, doesn't find a force of will now, but now he just needs a land. So
yeah, this is just absolutely disgusting here. You know, Brainstorm hitting a land for Drown in the Loch is not game over by any stretch of the imagination, but very strong.
yeah, look at that. There's
Mm.
two more removal spells in his hand, one of which can also be a counter spell. It's going to be real hard for Cyrus to piece together a win from here.
Okay, so
that does something.
That definitely does something. So previously, Bonde chose to get rid of the Dryad Arbor rather than the Wirewood symbiote. So if this Elvish Visionary were to go and resolve, it does disgusting things.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Drown in the Loch is really good.
It is, especially it's really good in a control deck, like as I was mentioning earlier, because it's not really matchup dependent. There's only a few matchups where it's kind of dead, and those are like the stompy matchups because they don't put cards in their graveyard in the turns that you would want to be using it. But against a creature deck, it's removal, and against combo, you've got an extra counter spell. So the flexibility on the card has been extremely impressive in my experience.
So note that we see Cyrus going for the face and not the Jace the Mind Sculptor here. So he has reduced Lampalot's life total to 2. So
yeah,
there's a sliver of hope.
Yeah, I think if he were to go after the Jace, it not dying in combat, it just doesn't really do anything.
A disaster, yeah. So all right, we're seeing an attack back here. And then we might just honestly see Jace unsummon Snapcaster Mage, draw step, K command, get rid of Heritage Druid and the card that's drawn per turn. Or no, I guess that doesn't work because of Pendelhaven.
So he's just going to do K command, kill the thing, or maybe Fatal Push. Okay, just save the K command for when you have a Snapcaster in your graveyard, maybe.
So notably, Gaia's Cradle not currently producing any mana, so we can't Green Sun for 2 for an Elvish Visionary, which is really the sort of thing that we're looking for. Kind of expecting this to just be a Wirewood symbiote, you know, in the hopes of protecting another creature a little bit later.
Yep. And it's kind of unfortunate that he can't really, try and wait till he gets another mana to get an Elvish Visionary, but in the face of Jace,
no, every turn that this Jace gets to Brainstorm is just, reducing his chance to win by 3 or 4%, if not more.
Yeah, and he can't really bank on thinking that just because he didn't make a play that Lampalot's gonna plus on him.
So I think Cyrus now is going to be hoping for like a land and a natural order. That would produce a 5/5 hasty duder that could get through a Snapcaster Mage and present lethal. But this Jace brainstorming, turn after turn is probably going to put that out of the realm of possibility.
I mean, we might just see him bounce the Snapcaster again. Yeah.
Nothing wrong with keeping the board clear. When there's no creatures, Gaia's Cradle doesn't produce mana. And there are a couple of weird draws, like this one, where you do end up denying some mana.
Cannot cast that Thoughtseize.
Does not seem like the correct line. I agree with that. So now it is sort of interesting whether you Jace Fate Seal so you can continue to unsummon the Snapcaster, or whether you just go and take the Brainstorm value. I'd be inclined to Brainstorm, but
yeah,
at some point, upticking the Jace is going to be very good.
Yeah, I mean, I usually don't uptick unless I think that's my best way to actually win the game is with the ultimate. And since he's got Snapcaster in play, he's already got a win condition. He doesn't need to try and win with the ultimate of Jace.
Yeah, 3 damage a turn is going to be a totally respectable clock.
Yeah.
Cyrus is also in an awkward position in that another potential path to victory could involve a glimpse chain, but if he holds cards in hand, then him to Turok and Thoughtseize threaten to rip that alternative line apart as well. So he's kind of in this anemic position where he keeps playing to the board, but can't get ahead.
Right. And the second Strix, I think his plan was every time he draws a 1/1, he's got a chance because he only needs one to actually hit his opponent because of the Pendelhaven. But the second Baleful Strix along with the Snapcaster, so like the Snapcaster might be attacking because that's, that's Michael Bonde's win condition since he's not plussing, but I think he did just plus the Jace. It's up to 3 now.
Yeah, and
can cast a Brainstorm. He can't fetch too many more times, only one more time, so that's an argument to start plussing.
So now we're just going to see a swing with the Flyer, swing with the Snapcaster Mage doesn't look so hot in the face of Pendelhaven. Speaking of not looking so hot, it's a little beastie boy.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough one to cast this game.
It'd be real good if it resolved. But I don't expect that to stay in Cyrus's hand for too long. No. I don't know whether or not, like, you just fire off that Hymn to Turok when Cyrus just has one card, when it's probably not going to be a great card, but...
I think if you're not using your mana, you just do it.
Yeah. Taking a 1-for-1 trade is totally fine, basically no matter what the 1-for-1 trade is, if you're the one who controls Jace the Mind Sculptor.
Yeah, and also because of the whole not being able to fetch anymore, so you can't really shuffle it away, so...
The unsummon Hymn to Turok, get 2 cards out of it. It's a delicious chef's kiss value there.
Pretty good.
And I think losing that match does not bode well for Cyrus.
No, so Cyrus is bringing in Progenitus, 4 Abrupt Decays, and 2 Thoughtseizes. So the Abrupt Decays are probably for the cages, and I mean, he's not going to feel good about Abrupt Decaying Strixes to punch through, but he might have to do it. There's also Plague Engineer, so there's a bunch of targets that are like basically the cage and the Plague Engineer are close to must answers, so it's not surprising he's bringing in 4 Abrupt Decays. And the Progenitus is there because a super fast natural order might be the best bet.
I think Cyrus has sideboarded really well. A lot of times novice Elves players will go and think, which one of my cards is the best? I will cut all 4 copies of that card. But since Elves is an engine deck and you really need lots of different intricate pieces interacting, you can't really afford to go and just cut your quote-unquote worst card. So that's why we see so much trimming. On Bonde's side, we have those cages, we have the Submerges and Plague Engineers. We're not seeing all 3 Grafdigger's cages as of right now, which surprises me a little bit.
Well, I mean, you don't really want to draw more than 1 usually. I mean, he does have Abrupt Decay, but that's extremely slow way to try and natural order through all the counter magic and removal that Bonde has. So I can kind of see why he would do that. He doesn't want to cut any of his removal. He probably doesn't want to cut any of his counter magic. So,
and I guess if you start trimming Ponders and things like that, which could find the cages in the first place, it gets into tricky territory. I'm used to playing all these prison and stompy decks where, like, if I have a sideboard card, it comes in.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going back into the match here. We're going to see Cyrus on the play with a pretty respectable opening hand. It has the Wirewood Symbiote Elvish Visionary combo, although it's effectively a 6-card hand because Craterhoof is not good right now. What do you think of Bonde's hand?
Bonde's hand, Hymn to Turok's going to be real good, probably. Force of Will. He might actually force the Elvish Visionary, or he might force the Wirewood Symbiote, depending on what how Cyrus sequences. He might let Cyrus draw that 1 card because he's going to most likely be hymning on turn 2. It's very unlikely he lets both of those cards resolve.
Yeah, I would be astonished if both Symbiote and Visionary resolved this turn.
Yeah. So his hand looks, pretty set up to go into a longer game, and the longer games are going to be, pretty favorable for him. But the Crater Hoof in hand actually, gives Cyrus some potentially strong draws of just drawing a Cradle in later turns after he's played a few more cheap creatures.
Yes, unlike drawing the Progenitus, which is just a total mistake in 99 out of 100 scenarios. Other than those weird times where you have Birchlow Ranger and you somehow find a way.
For me, I will always draw Progenitus like when my only out is Natural Order, and then I'll just draw Progenitus.
Yeah, so as expected, we see the second piece of the combo being forced. You could have a whole discussion about whether or not you're supposed to lead on the Visionary or the Wirewood that turn. They sort of represent and play around different things, but I think this is going to be a super easy Hymn to Turok from Bonde now.
Yeah, and basically whatever it hits is going to be pretty good for him.
So this Abrupt Decay is currently doing a whole lot of nothing.
It might have been the best card in his hand, though.
I do agree with that. So Lampalot is about to have the bigger creature on board. Cyrus's Abrupt Decay doesn't do such a hot job of answering that.
And there goes his last card, too.
Yep. Ooh. Yeah, I think you absolutely take that as a 1-for-1 here.
Yeah, I agree.
So this goes to the 6th card in Graveyard for Gurmag Angler as well.
Right, and the Gurmag is just, it races and it's a huge roadblock if it's not going to race, and then Bonde just has a Forcible in his hand, so it's going to be a lot of top decks for Cyrus to get out of this.
So Cyrus can defend his life total really well from this Gurmag Angler right now, because Quirion Ranger can bounce Dryad Arbor and Wirewood Symbiote can bounce Quirion Ranger or Fyndhorn Elves. So what we're going to see here is a double attack in whichever one Lampalot blocks, Cyrus is going to bounce that.
Yeah, it's a good way to
redeploy it.
It's a good way to chip in damage and to avoid dying. So,
yeah, other than the Dryad Arbor having summoning sickness now, the board state looks exactly the same as it did prior to combat. So it's just free.
And we can really see how strong the Grixis control deck is, because every top deck seems really strong.
Yeah, so basically other than the discard spells, which aren't doing anything at this exact time, most of Bonde's draws are going to be pretty good. This is a very interesting draw. You could start trying to glimpse this turn, I guess. Because you can bounce one thing with Wirewood, bounce another with Quirion Ranger.
Yeah. I think it just draws him one card, right?
Oh yeah, it does just draw one card. But it has the potential to do a lot. So I think you have to force a will this.
Yeah, I sometimes get greedy in those situations and just don't force it because it only draws one card, and if it draws two, if they're 1/1s. But in this situation, like, Cyrus has this set up so that he can keep attacking every turn. So I don't think you want more creatures to enter the battlefield.
Yeah, I think it's not always, but often a mistake to get greedy with the glimpse hands, because the highest upside hands result in you just being dead.
Yeah, I mean, so the reason sometimes I would consider being greedy is just because Natural Order off the top is basically lethal, but it looks like that now Cyrus isn't going to be able to make enough mana. I think that he might have forgotten that he used his creatures that turn.
So this is a very good draw. Again, we see Bonde's top decks being very strong.
Yeah, this just kills a creature, kills the Wirewood symbiote, and discards the draw step. So I think
So Cyrus opted not to block and bounce there. Ooh.
he would have drawn the natural order.
Oh, this one hurts.
So if he had not made that attack last turn, that natural order would likely have won him the game if it weren't for the Cooligans command off the top.
So Cyrus, in response to that, could have bounced the Quirion Ranger and discarded the Quirion Ranger to keep the natural order in hand?
Yeah, so he probably still could have. Well,
He'll
it
just draw
depends on
another
what it
natural
was
order.
targeted.
Fine.
Yeah, but he needs the 4 mana now.
But it represents a lethal line later on.
Yeah, but I think he's dead. Oh, Bonde's just doing ambush Viper there. I guess he's got a 2-turn clock, so it can't hurt too bad to do it.
Yeah, this Preordain off the top is probably going to lock it up. Well, not officially, but I don't know how Cyrus gets out of the abyss that is Gurmag Angler.
No, yeah, I don't think he can get out of that without either having... Yeah. All right, well, that went about how we kind of expected.
Yeah, I expected the games to go a little bit longer and be a bit grindier. I expected, Plague Engineer to play a major role or Grafdigger's Cage, but no, it was just more of the same stuff that we saw in game 1.
There's just so much removal and threats of counters that it's real hard to play around things, and it's hard to resolve your impactful spells in the matchup.
So as a reminder, all of these matches today were elimination matches. So walking through the day, round 1, we had Mengucci versus Bob, and that was a 4-color Delver for Mengucci, and Bob on a very interesting Rug Lands build, and Mengucci took that 2-1. What happened in round 2?
Round 2 was you and me and you, right? Match 2 was me and Phil. Phil brought Dino Stompy. I brought 4-color Snow with 2K commands, kind of hoping to destroy some artifacts today, but the threat density of the Dino Stompy, as well as maybe not picking my battles in the right spot, led Phil to a victory there.
All right, and then as we saw in our last round there, Bonde defeated Cyrus very handily in 2 games. So normally we have 4 matches a week. We had to reschedule one this evening, but don't worry, we will be back next Wednesday, as well as many of the other following Wednesdays for more amazing Legacy action. Who knows, maybe we'll even have a new format for next week. It's kind of a mystery. People have been speculating all sorts of things.
I wouldn't cross my fingers or hold my breath.
Yeah,
don't hold your breath.
It's really hard to hold your breath and do commentary at the same time. I have not mastered that skill yet. All right, so thank you all for joining tonight. I really do want to thank our sponsors, Card Hoarder, Wizards of the Coast, and Scott Monroe. Really, we cannot do this sort of content without them. Card Hoarder lets us borrow all sorts of strange and ridiculous cards, like, all of the ones that were in my deck tonight, so that we can play these great decks. And if you are interested in kind of taking a look at the league, following the bracket and looking at some of the details, you can always check out Decklist on itsjulian.com. And you can also follow the league on liquipedia.org/magic. Eric, any closing thoughts about the night?
No, well, thanks everybody for watching, and we're gonna be raiding. Hopefully there's some Legacy streamers out there that Julian can raid.
All right. Good night, folks. We'll see you all next week, and I hope you enjoyed.